You probably scrolled past a photo today without a second thought. An image, instantly understood, carrying emotion, meaning, even memory. But for the first 2 million years, humans and their ancestors existed on this planet. That idea didn't exist. Not one drawing, not one symbol, not one image of anything, anywhere. Then, something changed. And once it did, it never stopped. So what flipped that switch? What made a species that had survived for millions of years without a single image suddenly start covering cave walls with them? Most people assume art started small. A stick figure scratched in dirt, slowly improving over generations until someone eventually painted a masterpiece. That assumption is wrong. When the first confirmed cave paintings appear in the fossil record, they are already stunningly accurate. Muscular, shaded, alive on the rock. There is no clumsy beginner phase in the evidence. It's as if the ability arrived almost fully formed, which raises an unsettling question. If it didn't develop gradually, where did it come from? To find the answer, we have to go back further than most people expect. Not tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands. In 2018, a team led by archaeologist Christopher Henshelwood published findings in Nature describing a small stone flake from Blombos Cave in South Africa. On its surface, a deliberate cross-hatched pattern drawn with an ochre crayon roughly 73,000 years ago. It is, right now, the oldest known drawing by human hands. Not a hunting scene, not an animal, just lines. Which means before humans were painting bison, they were practicing something far more basic, the idea that a mark on a surface could mean something at all. But here's the twist that changes the whole story. In 2018, researchers led by Dirk Hoffman analyzed pigment markings in 3 caves in Spain, La Pasiega, Maltravieso, and Ardales, using uranium-thorium dating on the mineral crusts that had formed over the paint. The results, published in Science, suggested some of these markings were at least 64,000 years old. Modern humans were not yet believed to have reached Spain at that time, which means if that dating holds up, the artists weren't us. They were Neanderthals. This finding remains debated. Some researchers question whether the dating method precisely captures when the pigment was applied. But if confirmed, it demolishes one of the oldest assumptions about our species. That symbolic thinking, creativity, the desire to make meaning, belong to modern humans alone. So if Neanderthals may have been marking cave walls, and modern humans were scratching patterns onto stone in Africa, then art wasn't a single lightning bolt of genius in one gifted population. It might have been something deeper, something closer to a shared inheritance, or a shared pressure, pushing more than one kind of human toward the same strange behavior. Which brings us to the real mystery underneath all of this. Why would any human bother? Drawing an animal on a cave wall does not feed you. It does not keep you warm. In a world where every hour might mean the difference between finding food and starving, spending days perfecting the shading on a painted horse looks, on the surface, like a colossal waste of time. Evolution does not usually reward waste, so there must have been a reason art paid off. One leading theory, championed by researchers studying the famous painted caves of Chauvet and Lascaux in France, points to something surprising: teaching. Cave art may have functioned as instruction. A painted bison isn't just decoration, it's a permanent, shareable record of anatomy, of where to strike an animal, of what danger looked like. Knowledge that once existed only inside one person's memory could now survive outside their body, viewable by anyone who walked into that cave for generations. That alone is a strange kind of magic. For the first time, a thought could outlive the person who had it. Others argue the drive was closer to something emotional. At Chauvet Cave, some panels sit in total darkness, deep in narrow chambers that would have required carrying fire hundreds of feet underground just to be seen at all. Whoever made those images wasn't showing off to a crowd. There was likely no crowd. Some researchers suggest this points towards something closer to ritual, storytelling, or an attempt to make sense of forces the artist didn't fully understand. The movement of herds, the arrival of seasons, perhaps even death itself. Here, experts disagree, and it's worth saying plainly. Nobody has definitive proof of intent. We can date the pigment. We can measure the strokes. We cannot interview the artist. But there's one detail almost every researcher agrees on, and it might be the most human clue of all. Scattered across cave walls in France and Indonesia are hundreds of handprints, not paintings of animals, just hands, pressed against stone, outlined in blown pigment, left behind like a signature. In 2021, a study led by Cambridge researcher Patrick Randolph-Quinn examined handprints at Chauvet Cave. When researchers compared finger-length ratios to known differences between men and women, the analysis suggested a striking possibility. Some of the most iconic hand stencils in Ice Age art may have been left by women, not the male hunters traditionally imagined holding the paint. Which means, for tens of thousands of years, we may have been imagining the wrong artist entirely. That single handprint on the wall wasn't just decoration or instruction. It was a message with no words. It said, "I was here. This happened. Remember me." And that impulse, to leave something behind that outlives you, never left our species. It didn't stay in the cave. It became the pyramids, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, a name carved into a school desk, a photo you posted this morning without thinking twice. Every single one of those is the same 73,000-year-old instinct, wearing a different outfit. So maybe the real discovery isn't when art began, or even why. Maybe it's this. Somewhere in the dark, tens of thousands of years before written language, before cities, before anything we'd recognize as civilization, a human being pressed a hand against cold stone and made a choice. The choice to be remembered. And every painting, every carving, every photograph since has been an echo of that same first decision. We didn't just learn to make art. We learned that we didn't want to disappear without a trace. And because of that one instinct, we never really have.